Escape from Tarkov's .10 patch is hit, and it's brought with it a ton of bug fixes. This video is going to be focusing on 3 points, though. 2 fixes and 1 test. Weapon parts and mods for the SA-58 have been added, which will theoretically reduce the maximum, or, well, I guess the minimum, recoil that the SA-58 has, which has been its greatest weakness since it was added. We are also going to test if the rate of fire linked to FPS problem has truly been fixed. I anticipate it has, but I haven't done any fixing yet to testing to see if it actually has been fixed. And the last is going to be looking at a macro that I have set up only for offline mode and testing purposes to see the effect of a macro versus the effect of Falado on the SA-58's recoil. So, I have loaded into Shoreline, and we're going to test this over at the resort. Alright, so here we are at Shoreline. This innocent wall is going to be our firing range for the purposes of these tests. I'm using a 50-round mag with 1 in the chamber. I'll be making sure to load that 1 in the chamber with every test in order to not make any errors and measure 50 bullets instead of 51. So, first off, we are going to enable our FPS counter. And then we are going to get our FPS as low as possible, which I've seen to be about 11 FPS. Low FPS, 50 round mag, loaded in, fire rate test. Okay, so I have isolated the time in which I am firing the gun and looked at the duration. It is 4 seconds and 25 milliseconds. So to figure out the firing rate, we're going to take the number of bullets shot, 51, divide by the time it took, 4.25 seconds, and then multiply by 60. That gives us a fire rate of 720 rounds per minute. Alright, this is going to be low FPS, single fire, macro, rate of fire test. Alright, well the macro is supposed to do a lot more than that, so I'm going to attribute that to the ridiculously low FPS and call that a unexpected but satisfying result. Anyways, for the love of God, get me my FPS back. Highest possible FPS. Save it, resume it. Alright, let's do a, I guess let's restock this mag and then do a test for full auto high FPS. We'll do it in the same place since these shots were so shitty they didn't even hit. So it looks like high FPS full auto has a greater kick and a greater spread to it than low FPS full auto. That is an interesting result. I'll have to see how long it takes to mag dump, because that could theoretically lend an advantage to actually low FPS players. Granted, no one would be able to kill anyone with 11 FPS. So I don't really think it's probably worth trying to artificially, or not even artificially, but lower your FPS to the point where you have lower recoil if it's going to take you 2 full seconds to see someone turn around corner due to your low FPS. Regardless, that's an interesting result. Alright, once more, I have isolated the audio of my firing, and we're going to check the speed, and it is the exact same speed. 4 seconds, 25 milliseconds. That is really awesome because without having to do any math, that shows that regardless of FPS 11 or what I'm getting right now 69, immature. Wow, that totally derailed my train of thought. Anyways, regardless of FPS, it shows that your fire rate is consistent the whole time. Now, an interesting tidbit of information I got out of this was that the fire rate was not consistent with the stated fire rate of the gun. It's In the statistics, it claims the fire rate is 700. Math shows that to be 720. Does this impact game performance or your fights? Can you blame this on why you die? No, you can't. That's ridiculous. It's an extra 20 rounds per minute, which is relatively low, all things considered. But it is interesting that in two different tests, I got the exact same results, those results being different than the stated values. Alright, so ignoring this outlier, this is going to be a single-fire macroed recoil test at high FPS. Alright, so the macro seems to be marginally better than full auto, but we'll have to see what the fire rate is in order to properly determine if a macro is better at single fire. And then, of course, it would depend on how your macro is set up. Personally, I have a 50 millisecond timer between each quote-unquote button press, artificial though it may be. Obviously, that was better than the low FPS macro test, seeing as that fired 2 shots. For the third and final time, this is the isolated audio of the macro firing at a high FPS. We go to speed and duration, we can see that it has lasted 5 seconds and 30 milliseconds. Now, using the math that we already did, you take the 51 shots divided by 5.3 seconds, multiply that by 60 seconds, and you get a fire rate of 577. Now, that is obviously lower than 720, as was previously calculated, as well as lower than 700, which is the stated fire rate of the SA-58. However, the recoil was less. So ultimately, it's going to be up to you if you want to use the macro or not. I recommend against it because macros are cheap and stupid, and you're dumb and ugly if you use one. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. I hope this was enlightening, and it's really awesome to see that the FPS linked to, or fire rate linked to FPS bug, or, you know, whatever it was, is fixed and not affecting performance anymore. I'm sure a lot of people will be happy to see that, especially on maps like Interchange and Shoreline, where frame rates are notoriously low, as well as dropped frames. Anyways, thank you guys for watching, and like I said, I hope this was informative.